You know, I think about this podcast, Eric, and the genesis for us launching this over a year ago
Right.
was that you and I have these conversations throughout the week, either about money or about psychology or about what's happening in the world. And I have found over the years that those conversations have been very impactful for the way I live my life and the things that I think about that.
Yeah.
And
Likewise.
I think the reason is because I have the privilege of getting access to deep thoughts by Eric and getting to discuss these
You,
things
Jack
with
Handy,
you.
I've got it.
But the thing that I think is really cool about you is that you don't just bounce around in life responding to things. You really spend time reading, educating yourself, thinking about the things that you're exposing yourself to, and then figuring out how to apply those things to your life. And I feel like some of that has rubbed off on me. I read a lot more than I used to. And then you and I get to have these cool conversations. And
Right.
you sent me a text the other weekend that I think you need to read because I think it would really benefit our audience. So do you want to read that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And I have to pull it up because I don't remember all of it. I wrote it and then quickly forgot it.
Isn't that the way of life? That's why you have to keep having the conversation to remind yourself so you don't forget.
No doubt. So the text was essentially, it's been said the definition of hell is meeting the person you could have become on your deathbed. As I've pondered that statement, I found the terrifying part is not actually the definition of hell, but in trying to figure out a way to avoid it. Solving the problem starts with one question: who is this mythical person? To answer that, we need to look back at our dreams and our aspirations. And this is the part that I'd been sort of struggling through or working through. Our waking dreams are the emissaries of the person you are trying to become. Pay attention to them, write them down, and work deeply on why they are your dreams. If you can do that and begin to diligently work at making them a reality, you might just be able to avoid this earthly hell.
And I feel like, Eric, that really dovetails with so much of what we're trying to help people with. I mean, I think if I look at your journey, my journey,
Right.
how we've related to money, and even what we're trying to do, I think it doesn't matter how deliberate you are with some of these things. It's really easy to get into this mode where if you're overextended or you're tired or you're spending your time during the day doing things that you don't find to be fulfilling,
Right.
to end up depressed or unhappy. And then time goes by, and I think it gets harder and harder because
Right.
there's an element of shame that begins to creep into life saying like, I thought I would be further along than I am right now.
No doubt.
And then that creates almost its own barrier to engaging with what you might actually want.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that a lot of that concept was around that idea of the dreams pipeline that we've been talking about so much with Dane Espegard and some of those other things. And part of me was like, well, yeah, that it seems cool, right? That there's this dreams pipeline of things that I'm working towards, but are they frivolous? Or is there something in those dreams that are pointing to something where like, that's who I really want to become? Like there's some nugget underneath the dream that's meaningful, that's real. Like otherwise it's not your dream, it's somebody else's dream.
Yeah. And I actually think the question that you just asked is really important because, the dreams list starts with travel and adventure and that kind of thing.
Material things that you want, right?
Material things. But if you go deeper into the dreams list, it's spiritual, it's relationships,
right?
It's skills, knowledge,
Legacy.
Creativity, it's health, it's financial, it's legacy. It's these really deep, meaningful things. And it's so easy to start with travel and adventure because those are maybe the most immediately exciting and the easiest to fulfill. But I think the other aspects of this are equally as important and sometimes more meaningful.
Right. Oh, yeah. But I think it requires a Kevin Keppel why in there. And that what's the old joke or what's the old saying is you should ask why 4 or 5 times.
Right.
Like, there's some deeper meaning. Like, why do I want to go travel to X? or why is a relationship with this person so important, or why is this spiritual thing, or why is this legacy? And my thought, and I haven't done the exercise. I've been thinking through it, and I need to sit down and spend time with it. But what is at the bottom of whatever that dreams list? What's the bottom of each of those, and what are the threads that connect them? Because there's got to be two or three threads that sort of bind them all together.
The depth.
Yeah, right. And I think it points to who you're trying to become.
Well,
Um,
I think a lot of this, to me at least, when I look at my list, um, is about connectedness,
yep.
right? I mean, I think we live in this world where it's really easy to be disconnected from other humans, you look on social media, you read stuff, you can compartmentalize. There's, the idea of tribalism. These
Yep.
people share my values, therefore they're my people, and everyone else is whatever.
Right.
You can dissociate from the actual human connection in such a crazy way. And I see that even with, some of the technologies coming out with NFTs. It's about, some of the stuff is about scoreboarding people through social media, but we aren't even having real conversations one
Right.
to one. And in some situations, like, I mean, Mike and I went out to dinner recently, and there was a group of probably 20 somethings at a table next to us, and they weren't talking to each other. They were, taking pictures of their food and typing up their posts and not engaging with one another. And
Right.
I feel like there's sort of this sense of loneliness that a lot of people experience, even people who have really good friends, and their quiet moments when they aren't distracted. I think sometimes, they keep themselves as busy as they do, so they don't have to think about those things.
Yep.
But I think that connectedness is really important. And, so much of, for me, the dreams list is really about modeling things for my children
Right.
so that they don't make the same mistakes that I did. Because if they know what their dreams are and they're actively working, if they've seen it modeled, they've seen mom and dad identified their dreams and work to make sure they were realizing at least one dream every single month, and keeping
Right.
that going, it's easier for them to then model that, to figure out what they want, to work towards it, to realize those dreams, and to deliberately script their own lives. And so for me, when I look at it, the realization of the dreams is mostly, I think almost everything on my list is about creating that sense of connection and caring with my kids, because they really are like the most important things in the world to me. And I know
Right.
Mike feels the same way. And I want my decisions, all of my decisions, to reflect that. And that's hard when you're tired.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've been sick all last week, and I still feel like I'm on the back end of it. And yesterday I was not a very pleasant person to be around, because I was just way overextended. I'm not getting any sleep. And so there was a mess made in the kitchen, and I did not handle it well. And it's like, man, that's not what I want them to remember me by. Right. That's not how I want that view to come through. But it seeps out, right? And when you're tired, and everything is going sideways. But I think that's also your component of that, is that idea for you of legacy, and not legacy for its own sake, or not significance for its own sake, but that idea of, like, the thread I've always seen on your side of it is that I want to make the world a better place on the other end, right? And give them a launching, especially for your kids, but give them a launching point for living a better life than you've had, or being able to make a difference in the world beyond what you've had the ability to do, and to
Mhm.
be able to continue that. But one family at a time, making a legacy and making a connection is really key.
Well, and I think I think I'm like a little bit of a weirdo in this regard, and I think you are too, is that you and I seem to spend a lot of time figuring out, like, how can I be better? And not, again, not better for the sake of look at me, but better for the sake of making a difference, making an
Right.
impact, changing the community. I mean, sometimes I think it's vanity that I sit here and I'm like, I'm going to change the world, but I really want to. I really do. And I think it's hard because I'm a mom. I'm tired. I'm a spouse. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'll tell you, this morning, I didn't sleep that well last night. It was Sunday night. As you know, we record these Monday mornings, they go out Wednesdays. And I didn't have a good night of sleep. I woke up thinking about all kinds of things. And, then the alarm goes off. And there's that moment where you're like, oh, I wish I could just play hooky, not just from work, but from life for a day.
That's right.
And I don't think I'm alone in feeling that. I think that most people have days like that, if we're being honest. But I got out of bed in part because there's work to be done. There's things that we need to do. And it'd be easy to just not do them. But I think it goes back to what you just said, right? The definition of hell and all of that, where if you don't do the work or have something that you're working towards, what is your purpose? And I think purpose is a question. I mean, why am I here? That's like, how
Yeah.
many times do you talk about that in college philosophy classes?
Right. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning and the whole deal,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's it though. I mean, I think too much of it is scorecarding. I got to
Mhm.
have we talked about this last night with the group that I was at. We got to do the thing. We got to get the house, the wife, the job, the whatever the order of operations is, the car, the kids, and then I'm good. And then I get a job and I work towards the job. And one of the guys in the group is retiring here in the next 2 or 3 months. And he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be working towards anymore. Like I don't have a
Mm.
broader vision for what that looks like because my whole career I've been working towards making a better career. And then I'm going to retire from this job. And 10 minutes after I'm gone, they're all going to forget that he didn't say that, but I'm just saying,
Right.
they're all going to move on because the business has to move on. And where's his purpose now? Right. And so I think trying to find that definition for yourself and figuring that out, something broader than yourself to work towards, helps you with those moments where you don't want to adult, right? You're like, I'm done. I want to lay in bed, but you need something to pull you up.
So you just said something that I want to spend some time on. It is the idea that for most people, they're working so that they can eventually retire. Right? That is the goal. I'm going to
Right.
work. I'm going to advance my career so I can save the money, and then one day I can stop working and I can begin to enjoy life. Except the problem is that's not the way it works out.
No.
And I've watched this with some of our clients, and I've watched this with my dad in particular, who had a very, very meaningful career that impacted a
Right.
lot of different people. Is that at that moment of retirement, it's exciting for a couple months, maybe a year. And then there's oh, wait a minute, I almost have to recreate myself moment.
Right.
I have to find new things that fulfill me. And I actually think it's tragic that we teach people societally
Right.
that you just have to do the work and then figure that out when you've retired. But I think that one of the things that this weird COVID break did is that it stripped out all of the things that maybe give us that sense of artificial meaning
Right.
and sort of created this moment where, oh, wait, what is it that actually fulfills me? It almost gave everybody in the country a trial run for what does retirement look like, because
Right.
even though people still had to work, schedules were crazy, that the limitations that were kind of imposed at that point, I think forced people to do a lot of soul searching. And
Yeah.
so what's exciting to me is that we're having these conversations and I'm not having to bring them up, right? People are already in the space.
Right.
But I think this idea that I'm going to like live my whole life and then suddenly who I was for the past 40 years doesn't exist anymore. And then I have to redefine myself at 65 or 70 is just really a difficult concept for me to wrap my head around. How
Yeah.
much better is
It's like a
it?
whiplash, right?
Yeah. How much better is it to gradually build income streams so that you're replacing all of that pressure on yourself and you can have those conversations earlier? And that's really what we're talking about, is trying to figure out who you want to be now versus waiting for some crazy date that's may never happen.
Right. And I think to me, that's where the dreams piece comes in, the dreams, yeah, aspirations, and not, I dreamt I was a rock star last night kind of dreams, but like, what do I want to go do with my life? But the more we have those now and the more we sort of dive into why those keep coming up, because there's the same dream is going to keep coming up. The same aspiration is going to
Mhm.
keep coming up, right? What is it about that's meaningful? Why does it keep bubbling up? And what do I need to do with it?
Mhm.
Right. And I think it gives us that hint about where we need to be going.
Right. And it doesn't have to be all at once. mean, I did have
Oh,
somebody at some point in our process when I said, hey, go do this dreams thing. And they were like, I don't want to. And when I asked them why, they were like, it's going to make me realize all the things that I wish I had that I don't see a path to. And I find that to be really depressing.
fair.
And it's interesting because that person has probably had one of the biggest transformations that I've seen,
Right.
but the unwillingness to do it because it's like, oh, now I'm just going to get really clear on everything I wish I had that I don't. And how much better is it to know that and start taking little steps towards it than it is
Nice.
to not even begin to think about it until it could be too late to do something about it.
Yeah. What is the quote? When there's hope in the future, there's power in the present.
Mhm.
Like there, do you have the ability? Okay, now I know where I'm going. So now I know how to sort of direct.
I can start taking steps in that direction, right? It goes right back to that Zig Ziglar quote. You can't hit a target you can't see, and you
Right.
can't see a target you don't have. Well, you have to start by figuring out what is the target,
Right.
and then you can figure out a pathway to actually get
What's a
there.
filter, right? It's the way to filter every decision.
Mhm.
Um, through that lens. Is this getting me closer or further away? If it's getting me further away, then it's
Don't make
obviously
the
in the wrong.
decision.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that even speaks to things as simple as stuff that I discovered when I did the audit of how much I spent on credit cards last year. I mean, I never carry a balance, I don't pay interest, but I looked at what I actually spent, and there were things that I was like, I spent how much on what? That
Right.
is such a, like, I don't even care about that. And if I had that money back, I could realize a dream.
Right.
I could go to the Maldives, except that I did all these stupid things and spent all
Right.
my money on DoorDash and restaurants,
Right.
when I could just as easily have sat at home and made dinner for less than half the price. I mean, it's fascinating to me, the choices that we make, right? We give up what really fulfills us for the ease of right now. And I think that only happens when you don't have clarity on what you want. And so you're trying, if you're unhappy because you're not moving towards the things that you really want, and I'm speaking from experience here, you
Right.
will piss away so much money and then wake up and say, had I not done that, I could be in a completely different place right now, had I just been more clear about what I actually wanted.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the power of intention. If you know what your intention is, you will begin to work towards those things. But if you don't know intent, you drift.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll waste money just trying to distract yourself.
Right. So I think first steps,
Yeah.
make your dreams list. If you haven't
Right.
done it, get
Yeah.
real clear on that. Ask yourself what those dreams are and why they are your dreams. And then I think step two, like, start finding the people that can help you realize them, that are going to build you up, that are going to help keep you on course,
Right.
that are going to teach you what you need to do it. Because the worst thing in the world, right, is to wake up on your deathbed and meet the person that you could have been
Right. Yeah.
all along the way.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
And on that note, at
And
least
on
you
that,
have some action items for
that's
what you
right.
can do to start moving in the right direction. But if you have any questions for us, want to know anything about our journey, you can find us on social media. I'm at
Yep.
The Wealth Woman. Eric, where can they find you?
And I'm at Economics with Eric, Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you
Mary.
guys for joining us.